This purging is not merely an act of forgetting, but a profound sacrifice, symbolizing the release of all earthly ties and the ultimate surrender to the divine will in hope of rebirth amidst the ruins. And so that becomes the storyline. So the players arrive at the ability to improvise as a DM is priceless, but I've always been more comfortable with having like a seed to build from. So rather than make an entire world from scratch, I'm going to be using tools to give me inspiration for my world. And whether you use a story engine, ChatGPT, or some other kind of randomizer, I think my way of generating ideas for D&D or any tabletop game really creates much more interesting encounters than just using one tool. So let me show you how I put it all together. While this could apply to many situations, what I'm going to be doing is choosing one hex on my continent map, and I'm going to be building a specific area, faction, encounter for my players to experience if they go to that hex. Otherwise, I think you could apply this to just about any kind of setting, whether it's a village, a city, or even a dungeon or something. The first step is to choose the hex I want to build. I'm going to choose something that's way out of the way from my players, so hopefully if any of them watch it, they'll kind of forget about this whole video if they ever actually go there. Let's go with this red hex over here. It's in the mountains, there's some snow, there's some water, there's even like some trees in the hex next door, so it kind of gives me lots of options and a lot of things to work with. What I'm going to be doing here specifically is I'm going to generate an area, something with using the deck of worlds. This is part of the story engine. And then I'm going to decide, I'm going to expand on what's going on there using the deck of lore, which I only have a PDF of, but hopefully they'll be releasing that later. Then using the story engine to generate a reason why the players are there, a conflict, a deeper meaning behind the people and places that exist in this hex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the deck of worlds to help me decide what is in this location. I'm going to be using the micro setting part of the instruction manual. And if you don't have this, you can generate your own micro settings using similar prompts, using an AI such as ChatGPT or some other kind of randomizer online. We could put this face down and just say, oh, this is a snow-capped mountain or something. But I'm going to go ahead and flip it and see what we got. Cliffs. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is a cliff area. So maybe this is in the mountains and it's situated around some cliffs. How big are those cliffs? Once again, that's the seed that I'm going to build upon. Rather than coming up with my own or using explicitly what something tells me, I'm going to use that as inspiration. If this is the region we're going to work in, then we need to draw a landmark. We come up with stone or street. Well, stone kind of fits the idea of cliffs. Street could be very interesting, but I don't know how I'd pull that one off. So I'm going to go with some stone. So in this cliff or on this cliff, there is some kind of arrangement of stone, and that's going to be inspiration for the landmark. Next is the namesake. This is going to decide the name of the area. What is it called, or why do people refer it to this way? Of philosophers of ice. That just happens to fit our setting. That does not kneel. That's a cool one. And thinking. Okay. I mean, the of ice is almost like, it's almost too on the nose, right? Like stone of ice. But maybe that kind of describes it pretty well. There are cliffs and there are giant icebergs or ice stones of ice that are on this cliff. After the namesake, we draw the origin. This is the origin of either the cliffs or of the stone landmark. It is a former military superpower. Probably not. Shaped by tectonic activity, obviously, but I don't know how I'd fit that into my story necessarily. Created or given as a gift, probably not. Founded by a repentant criminal. So maybe there's a repentant criminal living on the cliffs or in the stone. And obviously, if you bring people into it, it's going to make things more interesting. So let's go with founded by a repentant criminal. So this could give us a lot of details and things to work with. So on the cliffs, there is a section of stone, of ice, and this section was founded by a repentant criminal. Next, we have an attribute. This is going to further detail one part of this micro setting. We have values unity. Okay. Known for regional legume. Interesting. Known for ruins. Or distinctive footwear. I mean, they're in the snow, right? But like obviously is like a dungeon master known for ruins is kind of an interesting concept for me. So what if the cliffs are known for the ruins? So like this general area is known for its ruins, and within this area is a section of stone, of ice, which is founded by a repentant criminal. Maybe that's one of the ruins that's around the cliffs. Finally, we're going to draw a Advent card. This is kind of like the action, what's happening here. They are declaring independence from their former rulers. Probably doesn't have a lot of rulers around here. Or an invasive species is taking over the ecosystem. Okay, so maybe there is something here, a plant pest or scavenger, that is kind of taking over these ruins. That could be interesting. So now we need to interpret this to decide what is going on in this hex. Somewhere in this hex, there is an area made of cliffs. There is especially a part of it, which is people call the Stone of Ice, which was founded by a repentant criminal. It's known for its ruins, and there is an invasive species that is taking over the ecosystem, a plant, a pest, or scavenger. And so we can build upon this as the basis for this area. So what we need to do next is let's figure out who this repentant criminal is. You could also do the creatures as well using the Book of Lore. That's the story engine once again. Now, the deck of lore isn't actually out yet. I don't think it comes out till next year. Luckily, I pre-ordered it, so they gave me a PDF. To help me navigate this PDF, I created a little guide with the page numbers for the different sections, such as factions, figures, events, locations, objects. And then I went ahead and numbered them 1 to 38. So that way I can use a generator like random.org to essentially randomly draw cards. So that's what I'm going to be using today, but hopefully in the future, I'll be able to use the actual deck. So when using the deck of lore, you need to pick one of the things from our generation so far to expand upon and give it lore and background. So let's go with the repentant criminal. Let's try to figure out who this is in order to give some more life to this character. So this is probably going to put us under the figure section. So I'm going to roll 1 through 38. So I did a random number, and that is 8. And so that is going to be page 15 of the lore book. So I'll count that 7, 8. So they're a refugee, a dealer, a veterinarian, or an agent. So what I could do is I could actually skip this step and just say, oh, it's a repentant criminal. But what I liked about this is I have an option. It could be it can be a criminal or a dealer now. Or maybe they're a refugee. So maybe they are a criminal who became a refugee, or they're a dealer. Let's just go with a dealer right now. What I'm going to do is, since I don't have the physical cards, is I'm going to keep track of who they are right here in my notes. So I'm going to put a note here, founded by a repentant criminal. And then I'm going to go ahead and bold the, maybe I'll spell that right. I'm going to go ahead and bold that name. And this is the person who I'm trying to figure out. And so who are they? I think I'm going to go with refugee, actually. That sounds really interesting. And I don't know how that connects yet, but we'll figure that out. So they are a refugee. What you do with the lore deck next is you draw 4 other cards of this type of figure, but then you turn it to the back where it's going to have 4 further descriptors of there. So I'm going to have to do 4 more numbers. Let's see. This 25. Is my first card. Of unknown birth or lineage, unique speaking or singing voice, possession of a powerful artifact, really is good for D&D, and mend a heartbreak. They have an agenda. Oh, they want to mend a heartbreak. Maybe that is why they are repentant. So they want to mend a heartbreak. So I'm going to add that to there. 25. Mend a heartbreak. And according to the lore, I need to draw a event / person, and I need to pick between them. So let's go ahead and draw a person or an event real quick, and then I'll get back to the video. All right, I corrected some numbers that I noticed were off. Whoops. And I added some more details here. So for this refugee, for the repentant criminal, who is a refugee, he had to mend a heartbreak. And so that could be either due to an artisan, maybe someone they loved, or maybe a family member, or due to an event, an invasion. I like the invasion because that actually relates to the idea of being a refugee. But I'm going to go ahead and hold these here for notes, and I'll work on these more later. For now, let's go ahead and draw the other details about this repentant criminal. So I decided to change it up because I was drawing too many of these extra cards. So our repentant criminal is a refugee, and they are a refugee who wants to mend a heartbreak, whether that's with an artisan or from an invasion. They're an extreme pessimist. They're a sole survivor of a tragedy, which I could draw an event to detail what that tragedy was, or I can just ignore it for now. And they have a notable hairstyle and facial hair. So what I want to do next is I want to use the story engine to give this character a stronger idea of like, what are they doing right now? What is their connection to the players? How could that impact my game the moment my players meet them? With the story engine, there's a number of ways to do that. Could use a simple character concept, could use a simple prompt, item or story driven. I could also go to more complex, like Circle of Fates, Clash of Wills, Soul Divided. These are the different kind of stories you could tell with this character. I'm going to stick with a simple story prompt just to create a general idea of what's happening, and I can always expand and do something different later. So for the story engine, you need to start with a character. Because this character has already been pre-decided, I'm going to go ahead and just put down a face-down agent card. So this is the refugee, the repentant criminal that we were talking about. Now, I need to draw 2 engine cards and place one as their motivation. So what is their motivation? Do they want to obtain something? Do they want to abandon? Do they want to be saved? Or do they want to save? Now, because of what we've been drawing so far, I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to want to obtain something. I think that's a pretty basic one, especially for D&D. You could always go with, want to save or want to be saved, and you can come up with something a little bit more unique, but I'm going to keep it simple for this example. Next, I'm going to draw an anchor and another agent card to decide what is the thing that he wants to obtain. Next, I'm going to draw a conflict card, which is going to create the conflict. But they must make a sacrifice no one will ever know about, or they must forget the thing that means the world to them. So maybe that could be that artisan, right? They have to kind of forget about them for some reason. So let's go ahead and take those cards, turn them into notes. A repentant criminal wants to obtain a god, but they must forget the thing that means the world to them. All right, now that we finished cleaning up these notes, let's go ahead and fill in the notes for the world itself, which was founded by a repentant criminal. All right, now we can take all of this and put it into ChatGPT. First thing we need to do is establish what is this prompt about. I have generated a region as well as a central character to that region, but I would like to expand on my generations and create a more detailed background for this character. Now we need to figure out exactly what we're asking it to do. We want it to write in exactly one paragraph, because we don't want multiple pages, who this character is and what it is they want to obtain from their god, and why do they have to forget the artisan who is key to mending their heartbreak. Let's see what it comes up with. In the shadowed crags of a region famed for its haunting ruins and invasive flora threatening ancient ecosystems, so there's what it's saying flora, we could change that, there exists a place called the Stones of Ice, carved by nature and lore alike. Here, a solitary figure emerges, marked by a notable mane of braided hair streaked with colors of dawn and intertwined with symbols of repentance. So, once again, filling in more details for us. This figure, once a criminal shrouded in misdeeds, seeks redemption through an enigmatic god rumored to reside beyond the veiled mists of the cliffs. The artisan, a beacon of creativity amidst the decay, holds the key to mending the deep-seated heartbreak that our protagonist harbors, a scar from a tragedy that left them as a sole survivor. To commune with the god and embrace the absolution they offer, the protagonist faces an excruciating trial, to relinquish the memories of the artisan, the only solace in their tormented existence. This purging is not merely an act of forgetting, but a profound sacrifice, symbolizing the release of all earthly ties and the ultimate surrender to the divine will and hope of rebirth amidst the ruins. And so that becomes the storyline. So the players arrive at the cliffs. Maybe they find some ruins. Maybe eventually that leads them to the stones of ice. They meet this repentant thief, right? Criminal. And he wants to get to this god. And maybe it's not a god. Maybe it's actually a devil. And it's like a warlock situation where he has to give up this memory of this person that he forgot. And can the players go find this person he forgot? Can the players help him reach the god? Those are all the things that are going to create encounters and prompts and things to get your players involved in the story. And I did that all through my tools. I started off by choosing a section of my map to put something interesting there. I then used the deck of worlds to generate what was there. I used the deck of lore to give me background on the people, places, and things of that area, and then used the story engine to generate the conflict. Why would the players and the characters be drawn to this place? All of these things come together to create what I think is a pretty awesome story. And this is something that I'm going to be using in the future in my D&D campaigns, and hopefully I generate some really cool stuff. So now I'm going to take this and generate encounters for my players to experience if they ever go to this area of the map. And, you know, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I really like what it generated. And if you did too, check out those tools and resources or make your own. I mean, you could easily make a list of your own areas and maps and ideas and conflicts and mix them up and hopefully create something really cool yourself. Check out the comments and let me know if you have any questions.